Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this further episode in the Enlit Europe New Energy Landscape series. This morning, I'm delighted to be in conversation with Pritil Gunjan from Guidehouse. Pritil, good morning.
Morning. Hi, Nigel.
Hi there. Not everybody perhaps familiar with the name Guidehouse. Tell us what they are and where the history comes from, and of course what you do there.
Sure. So I'm part of Guidehouse Insights. We are the research arm of the Guidehouse, research and consulting wing. Basically, Guidehouse acquired Navigant Research last year, and we've been part of the Guidehouse business now. Guidehouse, as you know, is a global management consulting firm. They were initially spun off from PwC's public sector business, it's a great company, and I'm excited to be part of this. Yeah.
Great, and the great thing for us is that Guidehouse is one of our sort of partners on Enlit Europe, so it's great to have you on board and be working with you. Today, we were going to talk specifically about a report that Guidehouse has done. I know you've been involved regarding distributed energy resources, DER. So I guess the first thing I suppose would be to ask you, how do you define distributed energy resources and the role they play in today's energy system?
Right. I mean, for us, distributed energy resource, extends across 14 different technology groups, and we basically aggregate all of these into one bucket, which is the distributed energy resources. And by 14 different technologies, we mean the entire end-to-end value chain. So it includes the generation side of the chain. It also includes the flexibility technologies, whether it's thermal generation or conventional generation. We have solar, gensets, microturbines. On the flexibility side, we look at storage, demand response, management systems, etc.
Right, and I think the report, talks about an acceleration in deployment of DER, or certainly that seems to be the trend. I mean, what do we put that down to? I mean, to what extent is policy driven?
Well, it did initially, to be honest, start off as a policy-driven segment of the energy sector. But I think increasingly over the years, cost and economics have started playing a very critical role. So what started off as, whether it's feed-in tariff enabled or subsidy enabled, it's purely a cost and technology economics now in play. And with the numerous innovations and research and investments going on in the sector right now, it's a really, really exciting opportunity for a lot of the energy stakeholders to be in.
And bringing us right up to date, of course, we're all aware how the world has changed, and particularly the energy sector has changed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. What have you observed in terms of this changing the positioning or the deployment of DERs?
Yeah, I mean, in the longer term, we did predict that, it's going to be a 500 gigawatt annual installment in 2030. But with the last few months and the whole coronavirus situation, we did predict that there would be like a 20% decline in DERs this year. But then eventually the curve does smooth out. So, it is still growing. It is still going to reach that 500 gigawatt mark in 10 years. It's just that, a couple of years, it's taken a bit of a hit, but it will ramp up again.
But I mean, have utilities seen behavior of customers, consumers change as a result of the lockdown, stuff like that? And how's that affected their business?
Oh, yes. I mean, at the heart of DERs lies the customer. And when I say distributed energy resources, the key application segment is the residential and the commercial and industrial customers. So how customers consume and manage their electricity is the key to decoding the DER opportunity. And for most utilities, I think there has been an increasing awareness and increasing interest in how they interact with their customers. So it's no longer a one-sided, centralized, one-way system of power generation and consumption. It's an ecosystem, as we call it in Guidehouse.
Right.
And the energy cloud is basically what we present how the two-way ecosystem works.
What about developments in technology? What do you see as being the most significant, both in terms of the management of DERs and the operation of DERs? Do you see anything significant on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, both in the short term and long term, I think energy storage, for example, is going to be the key. We see a lot of investment in solar plus storage technologies. Electric vehicles is another one. So, there's increasing investment in charging infrastructure, looking at electric vehicles in seclusion. Smart gensets is the other one. A lot of interest in, and not only for managing intermittency, but also from a resilience perspective, smart gensets would play a key role. And then going forward, I think technology cannot be, not mentioned in this context. So looking at things like management and control system, whether it's terms, whether it's demand response or energy efficiency solutions, technology is going to be the key driver, and digital technology specifically.
And is there anything else that came out from that report and the work you've done that you'd like to draw attention to?
I mean, regionally, I think the mix of where the opportunity for DER lies. I mean, we do know that the APAC market is probably going to be the biggest hotspot,
Mm-hmm.
and the installation and consumers of distributed energy resources. But then having said that, I mean, the more mature markets like North America and Europe will continue to grow steadily. And things like the renewable energy targets, clean energy push, decarbonization, which has become so critical, which was always one of the most important things globally, but even more so now with the pandemic and the situation. There is a rising consciousness to look at energy from a holistic view, and not only from the one-sided flow of generators to consumers.
Okay, it's been fascinating to get an insight into DERs and the perspective from Guidehouse. If people want to know more, can they access this report? How do they go about doing that?
I mean, we do have syndicated subscriptions to our research services. We recently launched our data insights services, which will give you full access to what the DER forecast looks like, what are some of our analyst insights in that space, and I mean, I'm happy to respond to any queries or comments and suggestions.
Great, great. Well, thanks very much for giving us a peek into the world of DERs. Fascinating part of the energy transition. I'm sure we're going to be talking about it a lot more over the years. Pritil, thanks for your time, and thanks for talking to Enlit Europe.
Thank you, Nigel. It's a pleasure, as always.